Hey guys, Andy here from Mediocre Hobbies, bringing you another painting tutorial. As you guys might or might not have noticed, my midweek videos tend to be something completely random. The last couple of weeks I've been working on some of the Chaos Trader Legion, so we did a Death Guard and a Thousand Sun. A couple of weeks before that it was Retro Ultramarines and Flesh Tearers and all sorts. So I use this video just to basically flesh out the channel with videos that I think will be really helpful for you guys to have, and that don't fit into any of the current kind of, I don't know, popular videos like Slap Chop or Contrast or anything like that. They're just standalone videos. And the response for these has been very positive. You guys seem to really enjoy them. So I'm going to continue to make them. So they will most of the time be on things like different Space Marine chapters. I want to do all of the different guard regiments, different craft worlds, that kinds of things. So if you have any ideas on which ones you would like to see, just put them in the comments below and I will make sure to get a video made for them. With that in mind, the video that I'm going to do here today, which is one that has been very popularly demanded, which is a standard 40k Dark Angel. So that's what we're going to get into today. If you guys have been following along with my channel for a while now, you know I rarely do sub-assembly, but as the Dark Angel has the big flowing robes over his armor, it will be quite difficult to get at it from the back with the power pack included, and also the head. I wasn't sure which of the two heads I was going to use, so I decided to mount both and paint up both and then ask my Patreons. In the end, I chose a hooded one, so about halfway through this process, you'll see I ditched the helmeted head. The model was sprayed Chaos Black, and then given a zenithal spray of Grey Seer, all with rattle cans. And then the first coat we do is we move on to Agros Dunes from the Contrast series, and we're going to apply this to all of the bits of the model that's going to be that kind of bony white color, which will be, of course, his entire set of robes. And all of the kind of Eagle Aquility parts that are on the Dark Angel model, so that was the one that goes across his chest and the one that goes across his shoulder pad, will be the same kind of bone color scheme. So we're going to hit that with Agros Dunes as well. And as you can see how well Contrast Agros Dunes sits on a surface like robes, and how much it immediately defines where the shadows go and where the highlights should go for later on. This is perhaps the best thing about base coating with contrasts. It does a lot of that guesswork for you. That means the layering stage later on is so much easier. Next, we move on to Dark Angel's Green Contrast. Funnily enough, we're using Dark Angel's Green Contrast for the Dark Angels miniature. This is a very dark green color, but Dark Angels themselves are, as the name would suggest, a very dark scheme. So we are going to apply this contrast all over the power armored sections of this miniature, taking your time and making sure that you don't get any unwanted pooling in any of the recesses or at the bottom of flat areas. So for instance, if you put a lot on a leg, it's going to start settling down around his heels and his ankles. So make sure that you kind of scoop that away with the brush as you go along. And obviously be careful when you're going in sections like this that you don't hit any of the bone parts. At least not too much. Not too much that we can't fix it later on. Now I find the Dark Angel scheme, like the power armor color, to be not that interesting myself, that really dark tone. And if I was to do a Dark Angel's army, I would strive for them all to have some sort of robes somewhere. Like I love the old Fallen models which had those robes as an option, because I thought that really broke up the dark green armor and made them feel like something different. So perhaps I would use Black Templar models as a base, maybe scrape off the iconography and build them up from there, but whether that will work or not, I'm not too sure. Wildwood was then used for the belt around his waist, which also covers all of his pouches. He's got a bolt pistol holstered at his hip. Why he has a pistol holstered at his hip and a pistol in his hand, I have no idea. That's up to the designers. This guy's, rocking it with two pistols. Maybe he likes what Cypher does and he's going for the same look. But all around his waist and, of course, all the different pouches. Blood Angel's red contrast was then used for the casing on his plasma pistol. The traditional color of weapon casings on Dark Angels is red, and I'd imagine this is due to that kind of idea I was talking about earlier, where their color scheme as a whole is a little bit dull. So then they bring in or introduce those kind of bright, vibrant colors to break it up just a little bit. It's now time to move on to the metallic stage. So we're going to use Iron Hand Steel and base coat all the parts that are due to be silver, which is basically the majority of the rest of the pistol, the blade of the sword handle of the other pistol in his holster, and some of the little details around the miniature. Like he has some sort of little holy relic in a box hanging from his waist. So that will get a coat of silver as well. While I'm doing this, I'm painting up the other parts. For instance, the backpack had a few parts, the exhaust vents, and his unhelmeted robed head. Obviously the robes got Agro's Dune stage so far, and the bionic eye got a coat of this Iron Hands steel as well. After that, it was time to move over to Retributor Armor Gold. And this was just for a couple of other details. So the pommel and hilt of the sword got a coat of this. And then the little holy relic thing that was actually inside the box on his waist, that's going to get a coat of gold. And then there was also some Dark Angel's iconography on the backpack or power pack of this power armor that we hit with a bit of gold as well. These are Primaris Lieutenants, so they may have achieved the rank of Primaris, or of Lieutenant, sorry, but that doesn't mean they've earned a hell of a lot of honors. So they're still, even though of higher rank, quite bland miniatures. No trophies or studs on their armor just yet. Maybe after the Indominus Crusade, they'll have earned a few laurels. Seraphim Sepia was then used and applied on the entire miniature to shade it all down. This will work a treat for all colors used so far, and give us a really nice tone to start layering up from. While the shade was drying on this miniature, I took the time to base it, and I went for my traditional, all Loyalist Marines I've done in the last while have gone on this Martian scheme of base, and maybe they can all be tied together and be used in a large game down the way. But I like the contrast that it does with a lot of the key schemes a lot, and that's why I use it so much. We then moved over to Caliban Green for the first layering, and that is going to be on all of the power armor. Now we want to leave that Dark Angel's contrast that has been separated in all the recesses and all the dark areas. That's going to be our shade and our shadow. The Caliban Green paint we're using now is going to be for the highlights and the layering. So any of the flat panels that are going to get a lot of light, that's where you're going to hit with Caliban Green. Now, like I said previously, Caliban Green is still a really dark color. The majority of examples of Dark Angels, after this, you get just an edge highlight that goes on after this. I did not want to do that edge highlight. I really am not a fan of the jump in color between the really dark green and then the almost moot green for the edges. It just doesn't stand out as working for me. And that's why I would lean on something more like robes or other bright colors to help pick this scheme up. Even the base will help to do that quite a lot. Next, we're going to move on to Carrick Stone, and we're going to use this to layer up the robes. Now, this is the only scheme or the only paint we're using on this miniature so far that is going to require 2 coats. Carrick Stone is not the strongest of tones, but it is a beautiful color, and it will work a treat for all of the robes and the iconography across his chest. But you will take your time and do 2 coats. The trick to doing 2 thin coats is when you apply the first one, you're not trying to get a solid coat. So don't keep going back over and over and over wet pieces. You're just going to get paint tearing, smudging, that kind of thing. Just give it one pass. It doesn't matter how much the base coat is showing through. The second coat will cover that much better. Just keep moving around the miniature, layering different parts. This was quite a therapeutic stage, as this is the stage that I really felt brought this miniature to life. I've talked about it before in a bunch of videos where there's like a point in the painting process where you go, oh, I see what this model is going to look like. And then you either get excited because you know it's going in the right direction. Every now and then you get a bit disparaged and you're like, okay, I'm not doing the best of jobs here. Hopefully those are few and far between for you guys. Obviously the folds in rows make for a beautiful surface to paint. And like I said, because of the contrast, we know exactly where the shadows are supposed to go and exactly where the highlights are, which is where we're going to put the layer paint. So you can see here what I mean by applying that one coat and not worrying too much about getting full opacity. That's what the second coat is for. So that was the first coat on, and here we go, moving on to the second coat, and you can see immediately how much stronger the Carrick stone is on the second coat and how light a coat that I am putting on it. This is almost like the first coat of Carrick stone was a layer, and this one's almost a highlight. And the tones are so different, but it is giving such good coverage because of that previous coat. So just follow through and layer up the entire robes, and don't forget to do the shoulder trim and the chest iconography on the Dark Angels miniature as well with these same colors. I know it's going to seem a little weird to try and use the same colors for both robes and chest pieces, but as you can see, it does work out quite well, and you are left with quite a nice result to move forward from. We then moved over to Mornfang Browns, add a very quick highlight to the belt going around his waist and all of the pouches. I believe one is a grenade pouch, one is a pistol clip pouch, and one itself is a spare bolt pistol holster. Not going to bring up again the fact that he's got two pistols on his right hand side, which is fine. Maybe he stole that plasma pistol off someone mid-fight. He hasn't had to draw his bolt pistol yet. Finders, keepers, losers, probably dead already, to be honest. From here, we're going to use Mephiston Red, and that's just to layer up two things. One is the casing on his bolt or his plasma pistol, and then we decided to use the red scheme on the candle wax seal of his purity seal on his shoulder pad. I decided to go for red wax for that instead of my normal kind of screamer pink color, but it definitely works for Dark Angels. We then moved on to Ironbreaker, and this was the highlight for all of the metallic parts, both gold and silver across this miniature. For the silver parts, it's a standard highlight. You're just going to basically layer up those parts. And for the gold highlights with the silver, you're just going to be hitting the kind of sharp point corners, like a few dot highlights, if that makes sense. You can see how I painting the gold here. Just a few dots, and it makes a huge difference and gives you a really nice finishing result on gold. But for the flat of the blade, we're just going to carry that down and try and get a nice smooth coat of silver. I don't really go in for the whole plasma power sword look with the differentiating tones and all that. It kind of drives me insane. So I like them to look like swords instead of lightsabers. Time to move on to that face, and we are going to give it a two-stage highlight. One is Cadian Flesh Tone, and this is a beautifully sculpted piece. So all of the face is very well defined, very easy to pick out the cheeks, the chin, the nose, forehead, and to carry it across with Kislev. Doing exactly the same thing, but just less. It's just tip of the nose, very tops of the cheeks, point of the chin, the lips, done with the Kislev flesh will give us a really simple and finished result. And the last stage we're going to do is Talazar Blue, and we're going to use this for the power coils or plasma coils of his plasma pistol. It's a very quick and easy coat. With that, we put them all together, and this is our finished Primaris Dark Angels Lieutenant. Very pleased with the end result, and I hope you all are as well. And there we have it, guys. Primaris Lieutenant Zakariah from the Dark Angels is painted and ready for the tabletop. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you did, give it a like. If you have any questions about anything I did or any suggestions for any more videos you'd like to see in this series, put in the comments below and I will get back to each and every one of you guys. If you'd like to support my channel, the best ways that you can do that are to, one, make sure that you hit that subscribe button. It really does make a huge difference. And two, check out my Patreon below. There's lots of benefits in there, like a private Discord server where we are currently hosting our Christmas painting competition, which is going to have some awesome prizes and stuff like that, and lots of other benefits. Thank you guys so much for watching to the end of the video. I'll see you in the next one.